everybody. In this video we're going to talk about functions. And a function is really just a section of code that you add to your program that accomplishes some kind of task. And up until now, all of our programs have been completely contained within main for the most part. Even a very long program would have just been completely contained within the curly braces of main. And in reality, programs are not designed like that to just, be one huge section of code. In reality, programs are broken up into smaller pieces, and then they're kind of orchestrated to work together into, one cohesive program. So that's what we're going to begin doing in this unit is, adding functions to a program really to break it up into smaller pieces so they can all work together. When you have a program that's broken into smaller pieces, these smaller pieces are more manageable than would be a huge program. Realistically, a program that is being used in a real environment is, can be a million lines of code. One huge program that size, start to finish, would not make sense. So it's broken up into smaller pieces. So it's more manageable. You have, teams of people, working on one part and another team working on another part, and then they all come together like the pieces of a puzzle in the end to form the program. So that's how real programs are structured. So let's begin with a very simple function. And basically, when you're setting up a function in this class, you're going to follow what I would call a three-step process. And step one, you basically write the function declaration. Okay, and we'll talk about what that is in a moment. This is also called the function prototype. I typically don't use that terminology, but you may see that in some of the sample programs that are up on Blackboard. So you start with the function declaration, then you will move on to the function definition, and then lastly, you're going to call your function. That's the function call. Okay? So let's begin with step one, the function declaration. And the function declaration is basically a one-liner up at the top of your program that lets the compiler know that you are going to use a function in this program. So we're going to do a very simple example. We'll create a function that just prints a character, just, obviously not the most, realistic, practical function, but it'll serve its purpose just to get the ball rolling on these techniques. So I'm going to begin by typing my function declaration. You always begin with what we call the return type of the function. And I don't want to jump the gun on this. We will be talking about functions that return values, but first things first. Let's just focus on a very simple function that does not return a value. I understand you don't know what that means at the moment, but just bear with me. So for now, we're just going to take a leap of faith, and you're just going to type void, meaning nothing. Okay, void means nothing. So let's choose a name for our function. And you want to, choosing a function name is like choosing a variable name. You want it to be descriptive. You want somebody to be able to look at that and say, oh, that function does this. And, really a descriptive, meaningful name. So we said that this function is going to print a character. So why don't we call it printchar? Okay, so that's the name of my function. And then you're going to open and close some parentheses. These will have more meaning in later videos, but for now, just take a leap of faith and open and close the parentheses. And then a semicolon. So this is the function declaration. And what this does is it says to the compiler, the compiler compiles your program much like we read a book. It starts at the top, and then it moves left to right from the top down. So this is one of the first things your compiler is going to see, after it processes the library files that we're including. It's going to see this, and it's a heads up to the compiler, we'll say. And it's telling the compiler, hey, we're going to use a function in this program, and this function is going to be called printchar. Okay? So that's a function declaration. That's the step one. And just let's look at this for a minute. If you, well, you know what, hold it. What, I was going to compare it to main. You actually have been using functions since week one of this class. Main is a function. Okay, so you'll see a lot of the syntax that comes with main you're going to see in this chapter. And finally, it's going to start making sense. So anyway, that was the function declaration. Let's move on to the function definition. Typically, in this class, I'd like you to scroll to the bottom of your program, and you want to make sure you're completely outside of main. I'm out in no man's land down here. And we're going to define the function here. So this will be the function definition. Okay, and this is really the function. Okay, we said a function is a scrap of code or a piece of code, a section of code that does something, accomplishes some kind of task, and that's really what the function definition is. It's that piece of code that's going to accomplish the task that you want it to accomplish. So we said that the function is going to print a character. So that's what this one is going to do. We'll have it print a smiley face or something, frivolous like that. Now look, we have the function declaration, and it's very important. Everything has got to match perfectly when you are working with functions. So what I would do is just copy your function declaration up at the top. Let's paste it in, and this will ensure that we have the name exactly the same, the return type later when we have things inside of these parentheses, those will be the same. And now very importantly, you get rid of this semicolon. You don't have the semicolon there in the definition. Instead, we throw down curly brace sandwich. Okay, and now the code that's going to print the smiley face is going in the middle here in the function. So this is a very simple function definition. So we'll say cout. Okay, and there is your definition. Okay, so lastly, we have the function call. Basically, I went through all the trouble to set up this function, so now I want to use it. And to use the function, you will basically be in main, which is still, the main part of your program. Main is a very special function. It starts the program, it ends the program, it is the program. It's, the head honcho here. Now that we're breaking the program into smaller pieces, yeah, the functions do contribute, but it always comes back to main. It starts with main, it ends with main. So basically, in main, we're going to call our function if we want to use it. We want to print the smiley face. And to call a function, you basically say, hey, you, run your code. You call it by name. So we say print char. And you do have to include those parentheses. That's it. So we're saying, hey, you, run your code. Okay, let's try it. And there's my smiley face. Okay, the function did that. Now, just to show you, I want to show you how to step through a program so you can see it executing line by line, and this will give you an idea of how this is panning out behind the scenes. If you see, I'm here on the line of the function call, and if I click in the gray margin, what that does is it establishes a breakpoint. And what a breakpoint is your program is going to run normally up until this point, at which moment it's going to go into what we call debug mode, and you can step through your program line by line and see it executing behind the scenes. So I'm going to run this normally. Okay, now I'm in. You saw the quick flash. This is my program running. You don't see the smiley face yet. Everything's like on hold. And now I'm in what we call debug mode. So let's see, if I go into debug, we want to basically F11 should show us the execution. It'll show us going into the function. So I'm pressing F11 on the keyboard here. And now look, the program execution has been switched over to my function.